Unless you've never watched this show before, you know that behind me is not our usual backdrop. We would like you to take a look at this. This is a quilt. You know, our family, my own particular family, is very into collecting quilts. Well, this is not one of our collection. This is not just any old quilt. This quilt is 12 feet by 12 feet, and each patch of this quilt represents a person who has died of AIDS. The patches were made by the family and friends of AIDS victims. And actually, this quilt is a small portion of the original, which is right now larger than the size of 2 football fields. Now, that's a lot of quilt. Unfortunately, that's also a lot of lives. Please meet the gentleman who is responsible for organizing this quilt. His name is Cleve Jones. He's been with us before. Cleve is gay, and his best friend died of AIDS. Cleve, why don't you tell me what this quilt means to you and how all of this got started?
Well, it means many different things, of course, and it means a lot to different people. But for me, it became very important to find a way to express not only the bad side of the epidemic, the sorrow and the fear and the grief, but also the good side and the courage and the love and the commitment and the sense of community that exists among the people who face this disease. And I found that in my own life I was becoming paralyzed by it, that it was so overwhelming, so constant. And I live in San Francisco. I know somebody that dies almost every week. And you become paralyzed and you lose the ability to fight back, and you also lose really the ability to enjoy life. So this was an attempt for me to work through a lot of those bad feelings so that I could get back to some of the good things about life.
Now, you had a friend who died of AIDS?
Yeah, my best friend was named Marvin Feldman. He died a year and a week ago. And he was the person that I really thought, I would get old with and be my friend forever. And losing him, I really began to despair after that. And I thought, well, everybody that I care about is going to be killed by this disease. And you just can't live under that kind of condition.
The effect on the family is, of course, devastating.
Yeah. I think the families suffer terribly, and it's so unfair. In the gay community now, there's great resources and networks for people that face this disease, and we help each other, and there's a real commitment that anybody who gets this disease is going to be cared for, and their loved ones and family are going to be supported. But for the heterosexual families, especially the ones who don't live in New York or San Francisco, there's very little support. And
you're there, and you have all kinds of things happen to you, and you're alone.
And shunned, usually, by your neighbors and friends.
Which is true. We still are afraid to visit a home where somebody has died of AIDS at the exact time when maybe that family needs us more than ever.
Needs them the most.
Are you still feeling this frightened of the disease? Has doing this helped you at all?
I think I've come to accept it a bit, that it's happened. It's still... it's overwhelming, it's a tragedy, but it's happened, and now I have a way of going on with my life and continuing. We're seeking to show people the enormity of the epidemic. People don't understand how bad it is, and we want to offer people a way of expressing themselves. And also, it's a very American thing. It's an American quilt, and we're American people, and we've got an American tragedy on our hands right now. And I think the quilt says how we should respond. We should stick together, we should stitch together our different experiences and make something beautiful and comforting out of that.
Who makes these different things?
The parents, the friends, the lovers.
Anybody who would like to.
Anyone who has moved to do it. We have a workshop in San Francisco and about 50 seamstresses who sew them together as they come in. They've come from every state in the country now.
How are we doing as a country?
Not very good. Not very good. We're blowing it on this one.
Why?
Well, we have 2 epidemics. We've got AIDS, which is bad enough. Over 25,000 Americans have already been killed by this epidemic. The majority of them are gay or minority people. And we have another epidemic, a parallel epidemic of fear, of hysteria, of misinformation, of bigotry, and we're allowing it to continue. I think that the one nation on earth that has the resources and the talent and the ability to beat this disease, unfortunately, seems to lack the national will. We certainly don't have the national leadership.
Do people say, you're gay, this disease is your fault?
All the time.
In fact, you're taking this disease, you gay people, and putting it in the rest of our society?
People say that all the time, and this is a peculiarly American situation. If you talk to the scientists and the researchers in Europe, they think that this is just further evidence of Americans' peculiar preoccupation with sex. In Europe, it's not referred to as a gay disease, and in Africa, it is certainly not referred to as a gay disease, because in Africa, perhaps 1/3 of the total population of that continent has been exposed to this disease through heterosexual transmission. So we're facing a national tragedy, a global disaster, and the one nation that could really pitch in, like we do usually,
Why?
isn't doing it.
Why?
Because they say it's a gay disease, and it makes people uncomfortable. And instead of talking about a disease, you've got to talk about sex, and you've got to talk about homosexuality. And what we say in the quilt is, we don't care if you're liberal or conservative or Democrat or Republican, and we don't care what your opinion is about homosexuals or homosexuality. What we care about is that people are suffering, and the country is not responding.
And they're people.
And they're people, and that's what we've got to get back to, is basic compassion and care.
The last time, if I remember, that you were on our show because of what? You had been beaten up.
Yeah, I was on television on a show talking about AIDS on another network, as they say, and I was recognized by 2 young men in Sacramento, California, who came up to me and told me that there were too many faggots around already, and they beat me up and stabbed me, tried to kill me.
How bad was the stabbing?
It was very bad. It was a 6-inch blade under my shoulder blade. It just missed the carotid artery and my lungs.
And what was your crime?
Being on television talking about being gay and fighting the epidemic.
Since AIDS, have things gotten worse for people?
Oh, yeah, clearly. I mean, it's like everybody who ever had a problem with homosexuals now has license to be an outright bigot.
Are they more bigoted?
I think so.
Is this country more prejudiced than?
No, I don't think the people are. I think the basic American attitude is, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. You know, just don't rub my face in it. And I think most Americans have a live and let live attitude. They want to go on with their lives. I think most Americans are beginning to realize that there probably is somebody gay in their life or their family. And, you know, but now we've got a lot of preachers and a lot of politicians who are out there deliberately inflaming the hysteria, deliberately egging people on, encouraging this kind of behavior. I think it's disgusting.
I think that, Cleve, the people who are with us today are not people that we've chosen to come see this show. How many of you agree with Cleve that that's a disease and that's scary and that has nothing to do with your sexuality? How many of you? There's a Liberace thing up there. That family was fighting pretty hard to say he didn't die of AIDS.
Right, but
You think it's right to go on television with the
Yes,
baby?
he did die of AIDS. Liberace died of AIDS. Rock Hudson died of AIDS. Many fine Americans have died of AIDS, and many more are going to die. They're going to be gay, they're going to be straight, an increasingly high percentage of them are going to be black and brown people. Young black women are believed to be the next group of our population to be hit the hardest. In the eastern seaboard cities, there's a rapidly growing population of infants with AIDS. And, you know, if this is indeed God's wrath on the homosexual, it's very hard to understand then why 2- and 3-year-old infants would be dying of a disease that they contracted in their mother's womb.
Time it was, and it was a time. This is the way I felt about Paul in the beginning. At 30, he's a marvel. I think I'm in love, and this is the way I felt at the end. This was a man I once loved above all others. This is a man I gladly spend my life with. Now he's dead. I never counted on this. I can't cope. And for the time being, I refuse to try. You're going to meet a family whose son died of AIDS when we return. Who did that? I would like you to meet now some people that are our neighbors, or they could be our neighbors. This is Jim and Betty Halloran. Their son died of AIDS. Typical American family. Your son comes to you and says, I'm gay. How did you react, Betty?
Well, I just couldn't believe it. This couldn't be our son. How could it be? You're ashamed and embarrassed. We couldn't tell anybody about it. And for 10 years, we kept quiet about it. And because we didn't accept Jimmy, it created a strained relationship with us. Although we talked periodically on the telephone, he didn't come home very often. And we wanted to visit him, and we were taking a motor trip through the country. Jimmy said he wouldn't be home. He was going skiing at Lake Tahoe.
And
We didn't see him.
so there was very little communication.
Very little communication.
All
Then
right.
in December of '84, our son in Colorado called us, and Jim answered the telephone. He said, Jim, get Mom on the phone. I've got to talk to both of you. And he told us that Jimmy was in the hospital in San Francisco with AIDS.
And what was your reaction to that?
Well, I screamed. People didn't know about AIDS then, but I had read it in the paper, and we just couldn't believe it.
Dad, how did you feel?
I cried. That's all I could do.
And you took your son into your home?
Well, there's more to the story, but yes, we took him eventually into our home. He went to Paris and was in Paris for treatment at the Pasteur Institute.
Now, you didn't approve of your son's lifestyle, did you?
No, I did not. I was ashamed and embarrassed and told no one. He didn't tell me directly for a long time, although he told Betty. And,
Okay.
But it really hit when the AIDS problem came up.
So you took your son into your home as he was getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, we had visited him in Paris, and then Jimmy was getting very weak over there, and Jim and I brought him back home with us.
And what were those,
And
how many months did he live with
He
you?
was with us for 6 months.
What was it like?
Well, it was hard. Coming over on the plane, we wanted to ask the woman who had helped us take care of my mother. My elderly mother lived with us, and she worked with us for 5 years. And we figured that we could call on her for help. But she said no, even though the doctor said it was all right for her to come into the home. She was afraid to come in, and the people that she worked with didn't want her to come in their home if she had come in ours.
Did other people shun you?
No. Our friends, God bless them, they sent in dinner and helped clean. And even though we told this woman that worked for us before that she wouldn't have to go upstairs in the room with Jimmy, and we just wanted her to help clean and cook, there was still that terrible fear there.
What have you learned?
What I've learned from it is to love, not be judgmental, that gay people are human beings, to love and accept each other as we are.
Cleve, what are your thoughts on hearing this?
Well, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
What part hurts?
Well, in particular, it hurts because we discovered as we were waiting to come on here that I knew Jimmy. He was a neighbor of mine, and I hadn't put the names together, so that was a shock. But this is something that's happening all over the country, is that moms and dads are losing their sons and their daughters to this disease, and they have to deal with the disease itself, and then all of this other additional burden. And it makes me very angry that mothers and fathers like these two have to experience hatred and contempt from other people at the same time that they're trying to accept the death of their son. I think it's an outrage.
I'm going to ask our director.
I could add something that might
Please
be helpful to Cleve, in that there was a story published in the magazine section of our local paper, the Washington Post, and concerning our problem, or Jim's death and so forth. And Cleve, we got many, many letters and calls of support, and there wasn't any crank calls or anything detrimental.
You think, Dad, we're better than some people give us credit for?
Yes.
As a country?
Right.
Okay.
It was demonstrated in that particular instance anyway.
I'm going to ask our director the part of the quilt that I showed, and I read that quote. Who was that? Who's Paul Wheeler?
Paul Wheeler was a San Franciscan, and this panel was made by his boyfriend, Mike Hippler.
Okay, and the one above it, the black one with all the coloring, what was that?
I know that one too. That was made by a 14-year-old San Francisco girl named Rebecca for a friend of the family's, and Danny was a teacher. And I don't know the others except this one with the rainbow for Hal was made by one of our volunteers.
Who was Hal?
He was just one of this guy's friends, and no one else had made the panel for him. We have an incredible workshop in San Francisco where people come from all over the country, families of people who've died of AIDS, come to make these panels, and we sew them together. We're going to keep doing it and take it around the country in the spring as a tour to raise money for those agencies that provide direct services to people with AIDS and their families.
Do you have something, Mom, that you want to tell us?
Let me say, I can't think of anything right now.
What would your son...
Pardon?
What would your son want you to say right now?
I think he is proud of what we're doing, and I think he'd say go for it. I don't think gays have a choice of what they want to be. And we're just, I guess happy isn't the word, but I will use it. We're so grateful that we had Jimmy home with us for 6 months to take care of. And his brothers and his sisters, they were there to rub his back and rub his legs, and we were with him constantly. We had a bed in the bedroom, and one of us stayed in there every night with him. When he went to the hospital, one of us was with him at the hospital so he wouldn't be rejected.
Take a break. We'll be right back.
How much has the fear of this disease changed the lifestyle of the gay community? Can you answer for yourself or for some of your friends?
I think that's a very good question, and it's not just the fear, but also the education that has followed the fear. In California and anywhere in the United States where there's a large gay community, there's been very intense education. We now know that according to the Public Health Department in San Francisco, AIDS is not being transmitted within the gay community in San Francisco any longer. And that's backed up by the statistics for the transmission of other venereal diseases. So the gay community has learned a very hard lesson. And I'd like to suggest that the rest of society has a lot to learn from us in facing this epidemic.
I'd like to ask the parents, were you fearful of contracting the AIDS, or did the love that you had for your son override this?
No, we didn't have any fear at all. In fact, December, we went to visit him in San Francisco. We wanted to stay and take care of him, but he had the Shanti group there. And then when we brought him home, his brothers and all of our family, none of us. The only thing I ever put on were gloves. I never wore a mask. And his dishes, he was treated just like a member of the family. And they hugged him and kissed him. And
That's not the way you get AIDS.
No.
No.
Let's say it, because it's very important.
Right.
That's not the way you get AIDS. You don't get it by visiting somebody. You don't get it by eating off their plate.
Or hugging them.
Or hugging them, or kissing them.
Right.
right.
I just want to acknowledge Cleve for the idea of the quilt. I think it's wonderful to recognize all these great people. And I also want to say that in our church, we are doing an educational program to help young people understand AIDS so there won't be this terrible fear. And I also want to know, what can we do as individuals with
I
the
can tell
situation?
you can cook, you could send in food, help clean, shop for them, even contact them by phone. Let them know that they're in your thoughts and prayers. If there's anything that you can do, you're available. It means an awful lot to them.
And if you don't know a family that's facing this disease, you can write letters. You can ask the government to spend more money finding a cure. You can speak out against things like these 3 small children who were burned out of their home because they're hemophiliacs and they got AIDS from a blood transfusion. Is this the way we handle this in this country?
We know we felt so alone with AIDS, but when we went down to the Ellipse and saw the quilt, it was therapeutic. It was a feeling, it was a bond, it was a togetherness. It meant so much to us.
I have a question to all of you. You see everywhere in all the media, anything on TV, in magazines about AIDS. Do you feel that's helping, or do you feel that's increasing the panic? I mean, every time you turn around, all you see is AIDS. I mean, they're just bringing it right up to your face.
It depends on what you're seeing. If you're seeing the humanity of it, and if you're seeing good positive, medical sound information, I think that that's good. I get frustrated that it's not followed by more money.
Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Is this a tough thing for you?
Sure. Yeah. I was attempt to answer her question too. I believe that the more, and agreeing with Cleve, it depends on what you see.
It's a pleasure having you come back and visit with us. I can't think of anyone better able to talk about this than you. And you know something, parents, they're making their panel right now. Are you not, for your son, Jimmy?
Yes, we are.
He is a very lucky boy to have you as parents. Thank you.
Thank you.